intentionally set Shadeur Sanders up for failure. I see it. All of a sudden, y'all don't want them to get no lineman in the first round. All of a sudden, y'all don't want them to get a wide receiver in the first round. All of a sudden, y'all talk, go get a safety. It's obvious what you guys are doing. G. Bush calls it out, exposing these Jason Lloyds, Mary Kays of the world, all of these people, man. It's nasty work. We got to get right into it. Welcome to...
That frustration you just heard? That's not just about draft picks. That's about watching a pattern repeat itself, watching the same media voices push the same agenda, and watching an entire fan base get set up for another year of offensive incompetence. Because right now, there's a coordinated effort happening in Cleveland sports media, and it's not about helping the Browns win. It's about making sure one specific quarterback fails. Jason Lloyd, a prominent Cleveland insider, just went on record advocating for the Browns to use their 6th overall pick on safety Caleb Downs from Ohio State. On the surface, that sounds reasonable. Downs is talented. The defense could get better. But here's what makes this recommendation absolutely insane. The Browns ranked 14th in points allowed last season, while their offense was a complete disaster. They couldn't score. They had no weapons. Their offensive line was a turnstile. And yet the primary voice in Cleveland media is telling them to ignore all of that and draft defense. This isn't analysis. This is sabotage. And the target is Shadeur Sanders.
Find where you need to be good at. They don't make the move to make those things happen. A la no receivers, a la no offensive line. And then the season starts. And then what happens is you start to see in real time as other people's teams blow you out or you can't compete. You then fall back into a situation where during the middle of the season, we said, can we even get over 13 points? And if it wasn't for Shadeur Sanders coming in the football game, we wouldn't be getting no points after that. Joe Flacco, no points. Dylan Gabriel, no points. And even when Shadeur Sanders got in the football game, points was at a premium because we didn't have weapons and we did not have offensive linemen that could do anything. We complain, we complain, we complain.
Listen to what's being described here. This is the reality the Browns lived through last season. During the offseason, everyone could see the problems. No receivers, no offensive line, no ability to move the ball or put points on the board. The front office knew it. The coaching staff knew it. The fans definitely knew it. Then the season started, and it played out exactly as predicted. The Browns couldn't get over 13 points in most games. They cycled through Joe Flacco, who couldn't score, Deshaun Watson, who couldn't stay healthy or effective, and briefly, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who was completely overwhelmed. The only time the offense showed any life was when Jameis Winston came in and at least tried to push the ball downfield. But even that was limited, because the weapons weren't there, and the protection was non-existent. This wasn't a mystery. This wasn't bad luck. This was the inevitable result of neglecting an entire side of the ball. And now, heading into the 2025 draft with a new quarterback coming in, the exact same media voices are recommending the exact same approach: ignore the offense, draft defense, and then act surprised when the offense struggles again.
Trying to convince G. Bush that they should be looking to take a safety in the first round at the number 6 pick. Caleb Downs can ball. This ain't no diss to Caleb Downs, flat out stud. Cleveland Browns taking Caleb Downs with the number 6. Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Team that needs a piece that's a piece away, I think he gets plug and play, and he's going to be a monster. The problem is, Tyvis pointed out the redundancy. They did play Grant Delpit, and a lot of people say that Caleb Downs has tremendously more upside than what Grant Delpit even has. But the problem is, I can't draft him at number 6 and then have him playing in the parking lot the way they did with Peppers. I remember we drafted Peppers in the first round, and we a position right now. Andrew Berry just talked about it. He said it when they was talking to Nathan Kinziguro. He said in 2020 when we got here, our whole focus was to put guys around Baker Mayfield and get this offense together. The defense was lacking.
Now here's where it gets personal, and here's where you see the agenda clearly. The argument being presented is that Caleb Downs is such a special talent, such a generational player, that you can't pass on him regardless of need. That sounds compelling until you remember what happened last year. Last year, the Browns had the exact same offensive problems. Everyone knew they needed receivers and offensive linemen. The offense was ranked near the bottom of the league. And what did General Manager Andrew Berry do with his first 2 picks? He drafted defensive players. Not 1, 2, Back-to-back defensive selections while the offense rotted. The media praised those picks at the time. They talked about building a dominant defense. They talked about how defense wins championships. And then the season started, and the Browns couldn't score 14 points per game, and suddenly everyone was asking why the offense looked so terrible. Well, maybe because you spent your premium draft capital on the side of the ball that was already functional. Now we're in 2025, and Jason Lloyd is advocating for the exact same approach. Draft Caleb Downs at 6. Ignore the receivers. Ignore the offensive line. Build that defense even better. And when Shadeur Sanders or whoever the quarterback is can't function behind a bad line with no weapons, they'll blame the quarterback. That's the play. That's always been the play.
Do it. If you're in a position to take a premium guy that's going to make your offense jump, and just put him in, you're better. Just start him, he's better. I can't look at a defensive player that early. Now, if you want to convince me later in the draft, like if you really want to convince me about the second pick, but I still need linemen too. I just can't go in with the deficiencies, Jason, and take, even though he's a tremendous player, I can't justify it.
Exactly. You got too many needs. You need a whole new wide receiver, and we still got Jerry Jeudy masquerading, pretending to be a number 1 wide receiver. We don't have a damn starting offensive lineman on the roster. Bruh, we don't got time to be taking those. You don't have time to be taking a safety with the number 6 pick when the defense is already good. We don't have time for that.
Ultimately, it really comes down to free agency.
William
run.
They filled a need.
This is the reality check that needs to happen in Cleveland. The Browns' defense ranked 14th in points allowed last season. That's middle of the pack, but it's functional. It's not elite, but it's not the problem. You know what the problem was? The offense couldn't stay on the field. The offense couldn't sustain drives. The offense put the defense in terrible positions over and over again because they went 3 and out constantly. Now let's say the Browns follow Jason Lloyd's advice. They draft Caleb Downs at 6. Maybe they grab Mason Graham or another defensive player at 24. Suddenly the defense improves from 14th to maybe 8th or 9th in points allowed. Congratulations. You're now a top 10 defense. But here's the question nobody in Cleveland media wants to answer. What happens when the offense still can't score? What happens when Shadeur Sanders is running for his life behind the same terrible offensive line? What happens when he's throwing to Jerry Jeudy, who's masquerading as a number 1 receiver and nobody else? What happens when the Browns go into week 1 and score 10 points? The media will turn around and say the quarterback isn't good enough. They'll say Shadeur can't elevate the talent around him. They'll say he's not the answer. And Andrew Berry will be sitting there with an elite defense and an offense that still can't function, and his job will be on the line. That's not a winning strategy. That's career suicide.
Why can't they do? What's to say they're not going to do it again?
That's the suicide.
If it is a generational player,
Well, he did. He wasn't on record.
If you think,
Last year he wasn't on record saying.
All right. Well, he also sang the praises of Travis Hunter as being a generational player, and then they traded out of it.
He did say
and they
that.
said they're going to carry 4 quarterbacks until he did. Like, you can't pay attention to anything you say. But if you think Caleb Downs is a generational player, how do you pass on him?
And this is the problem. The second Andrew Berry takes a Caleb Downs or some defensive player with the number 6 pick and the offense looks piss poor, all of y'all are going to be saying, why did he take a defensive player? Fire him. He not even getting nobody on up. It's suicide, just like G. Bush said. Bro, this dude, Jason Lloyd, whole intent behind wanting Caleb Downs is because he doesn't want any linemen for Shadeur Sanders. He doesn't want any wide receivers for Shadeur Sanders because he wants Shadeur Sanders to fail. That is the truth of the matter. Point blank and period.
Let's talk about what Andrew Berry actually said recently, because this matters. He came out publicly and stated that everyone knows where the focus needs to be. He acknowledged that when he arrived in Cleveland in 2020, the priority was building around Baker Mayfield and fixing the offense. He admitted the defense was lacking at that time, and they addressed it. Now in 2025, he's saying the situation is reversed. The defense is in good shape. The offensive side is the priority. Everyone understands that. Receivers, offensive line, playmakers, that's where the attention needs to go. Those are his words. That's the general manager of the Cleveland Browns explicitly stating that offense is the priority. And yet Jason Lloyd is on air advocating for Caleb Downs at 6. He's pushing a defensive player with the first pick. He's not alone either. There's a contingent of Cleveland media members who are part of what's been called the anybody but Shadeur Sanders Mafia, and they're all pushing the same narrative. Don't draft offensive linemen in the first round. Don't draft receivers in the first round. Go defense. Go safety. Go defensive tackle. Why? If Andrew Berry himself is saying offense is the priority, why are these media members advocating the opposite? The answer is simple. They don't want Shadeur Sanders to succeed. They don't want any quarterback in Cleveland to succeed if it means validating a direction they opposed. They'd rather be right than see the Browns win.
So what else you have? Because that's how you wind up. That's how you wind up with William Green instead of Ed Reed.
You remember the conversation you just asked me about when we look at the nickel position, because it's a very important position.
Mm-hmm.
You just asked me, who would you?
Yeah. Yeah. So and
here's why.
You can put him, Ronnie,
here's why.
and Grant. That's not bad.
This is suicide. Here's the reason why. If you look at what the Cleveland Browns have defensively, they're pretty good now. You draft Caleb Downs, say they even get better. How many points a game they give up? What?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Where were they in points given up?
18, 20, 14?
Yeah, they were middle of the
Falcons?
pack in points allowed. We'll pull it up real quick. But
So-
they were 14th exactly.
So you know, let's look at that 14. Say they drop that down, they in the top 5. They didn't get Caleb Downs, they in the top 5. Right?
Here's the comparison that exposes how ridiculous this argument is. Back in 2002, the Browns had the 3rd overall pick. They needed a running back, and William Green was the top-rated back in that draft. But Ed Reed, one of the greatest safeties in NFL history, was also available. The Browns took William Green. Everyone killed them for it at the time. Ed Reed went on to have a Hall of Fame career with the Ravens. Jason Lloyd brings this up as evidence that you should always take the best player available regardless of need. If a generational talent like Ed Reed is sitting there, you take him even if you don't need a safety. That sounds logical until you ask the follow-up question. Did taking William Green over Ed Reed cost the Browns a championship? No, it didn't. Because the Browns weren't one Ed Reed away from being a championship team. They had massive holes everywhere. Taking Ed Reed wouldn't have fixed the offense. It wouldn't have given them a franchise quarterback. It wouldn't have solved the organizational dysfunction. The Browns were bad for reasons that had nothing to do with that one draft pick. Now apply that logic to 2025. The Browns aren't one Caleb Downs away from being a championship team. They're multiple offensive pieces away from being competitive. Taking Downs at 6 doesn't fix the receiver room. It doesn't fix the offensive line. It doesn't give Shadeur Sanders or any quarterback a chance to succeed. All it does is make the defense slightly better while the offense continues to struggle, and then everyone blames the quarterback.
Stefanski was the problem. Remember? You didn't get Kevin Stefanski no weapons and he got fired. You said that you had a defense that was ready to go. Your defense is better, but the problem is you ain't been able to score no points in about 4 years now. Let's look at your receivers. You drafted Anthony Schwartz and David Bell. And
So let's get to the real issue here, the thing that's driving this entire conversation. There are people in Cleveland media who desperately do not want Shadeur Sanders to succeed. They've been vocal about it throughout the pre-draft process. They've advocated for other quarterbacks. They've downplayed Sanders' abilities. They've questioned whether he's a fit for Cleveland. And now that it looks increasingly likely that Sanders will be the pick at 6, they're pivoting to a new strategy. Don't give him any help. Don't draft Tetairoa McMillan, the elite receiver from Arizona who would immediately upgrade the passing game. Don't draft Kelvin Banks or another offensive tackle who could protect the quarterback. Don't address the glaring needs on offense. Instead, go get Caleb Downs. Go get a safety. Make the defense better and leave the offense in shambles. Then, when Sanders struggles because he has no weapons and no protection, these same media members will say, "See, we told you he wasn't the guy." That's the agenda. That's what's happening in Cleveland right now. And it's not subtle. Jason Lloyd and others in that media circle are openly advocating for draft strategies that would set up the quarterback for failure. They're not even hiding it anymore. They're just hoping that Andrew Berry is dumb enough to listen to them instead of following his own stated plan of prioritizing the offense. The Browns ranked 14th in points allowed on defense last season. They were functional. They weren't great, but they weren't the problem. The offense couldn't score. The offense couldn't move the ball. The offense was the reason the Browns missed the playoffs. And yet the media narrative is to ignore all of that and draft defense. Here's what should happen. The Browns should take Tetairoa McMillan at 6 if he's available. If not, they should take Kelvin Banks or another offensive tackle. At 24, they take whichever position they didn't address at 6. Receiver and offensive tackle in the first round. Build around the quarterback. Give him weapons. Give him protection. Then if it doesn't work, at least you know you gave him a fair shot. But if Andrew Berry listens to Jason Lloyd and takes Caleb Downs at 6, he's signing his own termination letter. Because when the offense struggles again, when the Browns can't score points, when Shadeur Sanders is getting killed behind a bad offensive line with no one to throw to, the fans and ownership aren't going to blame the media. They're going to blame the general manager who ignored the obvious needs and drafted defense for the 3rd straight year. Cleveland fans deserve better than this. They deserve a front office that builds intelligently and a media that holds people accountable instead of pushing agendas. They deserve to see their team actually try to build a functional offense instead of hoping that defense alone can win games in 2025. And Shadeur Sanders, if he ends up in Cleveland, deserves a fair chance. He deserves weapons. He deserves protection. He deserves to walk into a situation where success is possible, not one where failure is preordained because the team refused to address glaring needs. So when you hear Jason Lloyd or anyone else in Cleveland media advocating for Caleb Downs at 6, understand what they're really saying. They're not trying to help the Browns build a championship team. They're trying to validate their own pre-existing opinions, even if it means sabotaging the franchise in the process. The Browns have a choice to make. They can follow their general manager's stated plan and prioritize offense, or they can listen to media members with agendas and set themselves up for another year of offensive futility. The smart move is obvious. The question is whether Cleveland will actually make it. Because if they don't, if they draft Caleb Downs at 6 and ignore the offense again, we'll be having this exact same conversation in 12 months. And Jason Lloyd and the rest of the anybody but Shadeur crowd will act shocked that the offense still doesn't work, while the quarterback takes all the blame for a situation that was designed to fail from the start. That's the reality in Cleveland right now. That's what's happening behind the scenes. And that's why you need to pay attention to who's saying what and why they're saying it. Because this isn't about building the best team. This is about media personalities protecting their narratives, even if it means the Browns suffer for another season.